Hello everyone, this is Victor from the Facebook group. That's facebook.com/group/A Skyrim Addict podcast. And this is episode 3 of my modding Skyrim series. And I just want to say at the beginning, we had a little discussion on the group, and I wanted to clarify why I'm making these videos the way I am. I am not a tutorial maker. There are great tutorial makers out there like Gopher and Cal and Gamer Poets, but I am a very visual learner. I like to see people doing the stuff that I want to do, right? Not necessarily, I also like tutorials, and those give one the nitty-gritty, but it also makes me feel more comfortable if I can watch somebody do the thing that I want to do. And so that's why I made it. It's sort of the Let's Play paradigm, right? You're watching somebody Let's Play with mods. So anyway, that's why I decided to make these videos, and I hope I'm conveying that. And if you have any comments about that, let me know. So today we're going to talk more about crashes, and I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, he'll shut up about those crashes and just let me see something else. Well, when you're modding Skyrim on a PC as opposed to a console, I mean, nowadays with Fallout 4 and stuff, there's mods for consoles, and crashes, there's other issues with crashes on consoles. But on a PC, there's a lot of stuff that you can do to avoid crashes happening. And when do they happen? Besides the short discussion we had about missing masters, which I sort of already covered, and how Mod Organizer lets you know that where there's a missing master, there's all kinds of other things. The infinite loading screen, that's a type of crash. The crash to desktop on the logo, that's the missing master. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is, as the game loads, it crashes. That's usually, right where you're going into the game. Not when the logo appears, but you've already selected your save, and it crashes when the save just loads into the world. That's often related to graphics. Game crashes in the world when you're fast traveling, when you're moving from an interior cell to an exterior cell, in other words, a building to the world, or vice versa. Those kind of crashes are things that you can trap and do something about. And so where do you start? Well, for a long time, there was the SKSE memory patch, and I'm going to just show you that quickly if I can find it right here. In your when you're modding this game, you're going to be needing SKSE on a PC. You just use it. It's there for a reason. It's fully mature, well developed, and extremely safe to use. In the skse.ini are 2 lines which help particularly with the infinite loading screen problem and a few other small things. These are memory, what's the word? Not adjustments, but they're memory use lines. Now you'll notice that I have them commented out, and that's for a good reason. But for a very long time, this was a must-have in your skse.ini. In my case, the skse.ini is in the root of my Skyrim directory in the data/skse folder. That's because I keep skse there in my Skyrim root directory because it's in every single one of my profiles, and I don't want to mess with turning it on and off in Mod Organizer. You can go the Gopher route with SKSE if you want. That's just fine, as long as you know where your INI is and you can add these lines, or not, as the case may be. And here's why you might not. That's because this amazingly vibrant community of Skyrim modders is always working on the game, constantly, and there's always new stuff. And in the last, let's just check and see, when was this uploaded? Okay, yeah, it was this year. So 17 January 2016, a new little thing came on the scene called Crash Fixes. This uses a different, I guess it's a deeper level, maybe, fix for the memory problem and infinite loading screens and a few other things. So with Crash Fixes, you no longer need the lines in your Skyrim, in your skse.ini. You need to install a preloader, which is going to be reside in your Skyrim root directory. It's right here, d3dx9_42.dll. These are all very simple things, but of course, Skyrim modding means that you need to be comfortable with file I/O and all of the things that go along with creating directories, moving files between directories, all that stuff. You sort of have to be kind of computer literate that way in order to mod Skyrim effectively. If you're not, educate yourself. So this preloader should be in your root directory, and once you have that done, and you follow the instructions on a page I'm going to show you, a lot of this type of crashing will go away, or be trapped and not have to worry about it ever, even if you didn't have them. This page here, which I will also link below in the description, Stability Performance Optimization ENB Configuration, a comprehensive guide, and yes, by God, it is comprehensive, and it's very good. It's full of extremely practical information, lots of cutting through the BS. Follow this guy's advice. Don't mess with lots of INI tweaks. There's all kinds of, pie in the sky INI tweaking information out there on the web. Don't listen to any of it. Listen to this guy and the people who have practical experience and think pragmatically. It's not worth screwing around with these values if you want a stable game. Only change the ones that are really, really, really necessary. And part of what this page is all about is showing you the ones that are really necessary. It also includes good information on installing crash fixes, how to set it up, etc. So let's just see a little piece of information here. When you want to know stuff about what's inside a mod, right click, select information, and there's all the stuff. I've been double clicking, but you can't tell that, can you, from your side of the video here. So here's crashfixes.ini file, and it's editable right inside Mod Organizer. There's a value here, right where my cursor is, that needs to be set to 1 once that preloader is installed in your game directory, and that's it. Another very, very helpful anti-crash, whatever you want to call it, utility is called EN-Boost. And yes, that is part of the whole thing about ENB. Now, ENB is scary for some people, and maybe it should be. The guy who wrote it is kind of scary himself, Boris Vorontsov. He is very direct, typically kind of Russian directness, and that's awesome. And you won't get any BS information from him. His website is full of clickbait, but other than that, you won't get any BS information from the guy. He will tell you exactly like it is, and that's all you need to know. This page here, the stability page, will tell you a lot about how to install EN-Boost. I recommend that everybody do it. It's a great tool. It's not scary. Once it's there, it's running in the background. You'll get a little notification when the game loads, but that's it. You can't break your game with EN-Boost. All you need to do is remove the files from your Skyrim directory, and that's it. So those three things, Skyrim crash fixes, the stability performance page, and EN-Boost, will help you immeasurably in controlling crashes. Next thing you can do, don't autosave. Just don't do it. You can quick save if you're running through a dungeon or something and you really need to back up, keep a backup of your progress so you don't have to go all the way back and kill 60,000 more Draugr. Fine, use quick saves. But when the game autosaves, especially because it tends to like to autosave when you travel or when you move through cells and stuff like that, you can bake crap into your save that will come back and bite you in the butt, and you'll regret it. Don't autosave. Shut it off. Just get in the habit of making a hard save just before you go into a dungeon, then make little quick saves as you go along, and at the end, stop, make another hard save, and move on. That's the way I do it anyway, and I've gotten used to it. Every once in a while I'll forget and screw myself, but it's better than having a corrupt save that doesn't come back to bite you until later and you don't know why. So that's another thing, autosaves. The third thing, and this is a little esoteric, and I'm just going to show you what it looks like. Skyrim, or Bethesda, in its games, has provided a framework for modders, and themselves obviously, to compress assets for any particular mod. It's called a BSA, and when you install a mod, I don't know if this one has one or not. Let's see what we'll talk about this kind of, yes, here's one right here, wrathofnature.bsa. Alright, so when I click OK, this is the way you should be installing mods in Mod Organizer, I leave this on because I want a visual reminder every time. This mod contains at least one BSA. Do you want to unpack it? No, I don't want to unpack the BSA. If you install mods, a lot of mods, and you unpack all the BSAs, you're asking for trouble because the mod authors put those files in those BSAs in order, and that's the way they should stay. Occasionally, you'll find an author who asks you to unpack a BSA. I think I've only seen one or two, and you can go ahead and do that. Or if you really know what you're doing, yeah, go ahead, dude. Do what you want. But I would say, in general, don't do it. Leave them handled by Mod Organizer. And this is the tab where Mod Organizer handles BSAs, the Archives tab, right here. It'll show you all the ones that have BSAs and that they're there and checked and active. So, those are some comments about crashing in Skyrim, something we all do and have fun with. You'll see on the web lots of people talking about Papyrus, and look at your Papyrus logs, and you'll be able to tell you what crashed your game. Really? Okay, fine. If you're a programmer and you know what you're doing, a modder, then maybe this can tell you what crashed your game. This is a Papyrus log. I mean, come on. All right? So if you do look at your Papyrus log, the only place in it that will tell you anything is the bottom. And even that won't tell you much. It might tell you the last script that tried to fire. That would be PSC. That's a script. And maybe that's what caused your game to crash. Who knows? But, tell me that you can look at this and nod sagely and say, yes, of course. Now I see it. It all becomes clear. I don't think so. So don't bother with your Papyrus logs. Just Google your crash, and you'll get a pile of information about it. And stay practical, folks. Just use these little links that I'm going to give you. Crash fixes, this one, up to the top here, and this one. Those three will help in so many ways and keep your game stable. So today's boring stuff is over. Let's just hop into the game and look at some crafting, because that's what this weekend's Skyrim Addict podcast is going to be about. We're going to talk crafting in Skyrim, and of course I'll be talking about how I do crafting in my modded game. And with Frostfall and Campfire and Hunterborn and all the wonderful things that those mods add to the crafting system and make your sort of immersive game more fun. And I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly. Wil has been progressing. He's moved on from where he was the last time, which I think was in Dragon's Reach, and I had showed you the JK's Dragon's Reach, and I showed you more HUD and Harvest Overhaul and Complete Alchemy Crafting Overhaul, which I talked about briefly. Well, that last mod figures prominently in crafting in a modded game. So since then, Wil has spent some time marauding through Solitude and stealing as much as he can get his filthy little hands on, because as you know, Wil, or as you probably know, Wil is a crafter. He doesn't wear or use or to a certain extent even eat anything that he can't make himself. He is Bosmer, so he can exist on meat, but he's not a green pact. He hasn't taken the oath. He's not interested in that. He's pretty much an omnivore. But what about crafting using Campfire and Hunterborn? Well, here are some of the things you can do with Hunterborn, for instance. Scrimshaw. All right. Once you've started harvesting parts and pieces from animals, you'll have an inventory of things you can use to make stuff. Wil has made his own armor, the bone armor, which is down here. Requires goat hide, and which is fine with Wil because a roast leg of goat is one of his favorite things in the world. Goat hide and leather strips and leather and small animal bones and a large animal bone. Those are all things to make this bone armor. Bone boots, bits of bone. That is another thing that you can make using scrimshaw, and you can make the bits out of larger bones or antlers and things like that. In scrimshaw, you can also make these charms. Nobody seems to know really what they do, but they're kind of cool. That's not true, but it's not worth talking about here. You can make enchanted rings. You can make enchanted amulets. There's one for foraging. Right now I'm wearing one for harvesting stuff from, I think it's the Pink Moon one, yes, harvesting from carcasses. All kinds of stuff like that. The bone bow, which I really want to make, but it's going to take a while, it needs a superb mammoth tusk, and I don't even know where to get one of those. I think you have to be a better hunter and gatherer upper level before you can gather superb tusks. There are levels of bone. There's superb bone and just regular bone, etc. All in Hunterborn. So what else can you do with Hunterborn that is crafting related? You can do cooking. Primitive cooking is something. I need a fire. We'll do that in a second. Is just basically things like charring meat and stuff like that. If you have a pot, using campfire, you can set up a cooking pot and do all your cooking right at the fire. So how do you make a fire? Well, first you have to forage for wood. That's another. I guess that's another crafting related. This particular forage right here is part of Hunterborn. Down here, these survival skills are part of Campfire and Frostfall. So we're going to harvest some wood here. And you can pretty much do it standing in place because too much animation is not a good thing. So just chop some. Now it does take time. So we're going to chop. We've harvested 5 pieces of dead wood. We're going to do it again. And then we're going to gather some branches and we're going to make a fire. So here is, we'll gather some branches. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. And we're done gathering branches. Nice little audio cues there. So we're going to use the campfire now. And we're going to build a fire with some branches. And then we're going to add some tinder to it using any number of items that the mod has flagged as usable for tinder. And there's all kinds of stuff that you can, obviously, that you can gather across the game. I use animal fat because I tend to have a lot of it because of Hunterborn. And of course in the real world, fat makes fire. And then you strike your flint, which basically just comes with the mod. It's not something you'd have to craft, although there might be a setting for that. And so, in fact, we'll look at that in a minute. So now the fire is started, and we're going to add some kindling to keep it going, which is exactly what you do in the real world. And then make it a flickering campfire, which burns for 3 hours with some extra dead wood and kindling. Then a crackling campfire, which does require dead wood. And there is another level called Roaring Campfire, and there might be another level after that with more experience and more wood. But a roaring campfire will burn for 12 hours. So there you go. So now once you have your character was going to warm his hands, and we'll do a little animation there if you're, especially if you're using Frostfall. Fires need to be in front of tents in order for the tent to warm you completely. If you're really, really cold and you make a fire and just stand in front of it in the cold and breezy air, you're not going to be able to completely warm up. You need to have a tent near the fire so that it traps the warmth of the fire. So what else can we do now using Campfire and Frostfall's crafting system? Create item. So here we have, and of course all these you select them and then you use the shout button to bring them up. A whole nother crafting menu of things you can make using your skill. You can also make a tanning rack, which you can carry around with you. And of course the tanning rack then does all the standard tanning rack things that the vanilla game has provided for you. But there's a lot of cool things in here that you can make, all bedrolls and cloaks, travel lanterns. The witches stuff, I'm not sure. It's just that's added by a thing called Tentapalooza, which is sort of an add-on, I guess you could say, for Campfire, because I think it's Chesco added sort of what amounts to an API for other modders to use to make add-ons for his mods, and that's pretty cool. You can make stone arrows, which are, pretty low. They're like iron arrows or even worse. But they're good for hunting animals, especially if you take good perks for, that relate well to hunting, like sneaking perks and long shot arrow perks and things like that, or bow perks, I should say. The walking stick, this is kind of a cool little item that they added, which increases your stamina by 10 points. That's kind of nice because, especially if you're using mods that take stamina away when you're walking, running, etc., then the walking stick can help. So there's that. So these are all the other things that you can do in with the campfire and frostfall, but they aren't really related to crafting. So what is related to crafting? More stuff mod wise. Complete crafting overhaul. This is a mod by Cryptopeer. It's essential to any load order, my opinion. You'll need to find some patches here and there for it, but in general it's pretty easy going mod, doesn't cause a lot of problems. The patches are mostly for just a value here and there that isn't quite correct. It's not patches that will stop the game from crashing or something like that. But in this, I spend a little bit of time looking at things, but mostly where I make changes is in the learning and XP section here and the mining and materials section. This allows you to add experience for crafting at a tanning rack or smelting metal or mining. It only makes sense. So I set those values as you see them. In the mining and materials, I always go for faster mining and more ore. Not as many whacks, you don't have to wait for all that. It's usually 3 whacks, and you can set that if you want to make it a little more granular there. Firewood, I usually turn that up a notch just so that I get 8 instead of 6. Just makes sense, a little quicker that way. Everything else I pretty much leave alone, these balances. Enabling certain mods, that's something you can get into on your own. So that's complete crafting. And then this mod by the same author. Amazing stuff. This is so comprehensive I'm not even going to try because I haven't even come close to plumbing the depths of all the stuff that she changed in the game. But let me tell you, it's extensive. And all the recipes have been redone, rebalanced. She did take away my favorite alchemy recipe of all, which is Blue Mountain Flower and Hanging Moss, which makes this very nice, expensive potion that damages magicka regeneration. And I will never forgive her for that, but it's okay because she made the game better in so many other ways. So complete alchemy and crafting overhaul and complete crafting overhaul. It's actually CCOR, complete crafting overhaul redone, is the one you want. I'll link those as well. So those 2 mods make crafting in this game different, more fun, and that's what it's all about, right? Fun. So that's about all I can think of to talk about today, crafting wise. There's so many things that you can find on your own and make work. It's just about experimentation, and especially if you're using Mod Organizer, keep a profile that you screw around with, that you don't really care if it starts to crash or if this thing's messed up. Just keep a profile that you can just add and subtract mods. It's very good advice. People will tell you, don't do that in the middle of a game, and don't. Once you've played with a lot of these mods and you know what you want out of them, then you can start building stable profiles that you won't screw with. At least you won't add ESPs to them in and out of an existing save. You can add textures and meshes till the cows come home, and it's not going to really have an effect on your saves. But adding and subtracting ESPs is always dangerous. But keep a profile where you just screw around, have fun, go mess with things, play with a mod. Don't take it too seriously. Just have fun with it. That's what it's all about. So here's Will and me having fun in Skyrim, and to all of you, until next time, happy Skyrimming. Boy, that music came up right at the right time, didn't it?